YouTube, how's it going? Frogs Angels is back after a crazy wild card weekend, and I'm here to recap it. Only 4 games to recap, so I'm free to talk as much as I want about each game, so this should be interesting. As you can see in the top left, that's our Twitter, Frogs_Angels. There's a link in the description. Lots of good stuff on there. Talk during the playoff games live, and I'll have a graphic for the college football final here tonight, predicting the score. The video wouldn't be long enough, so I'll talk about that game on Twitter and post a score prediction as well, so stay tuned for that. Should be a good one tonight, but let's talk about some NFL here. First game was the Colts and the Texans. The Colts dominated this game. Pretty obvious they dominated this game right off the bat. The first drive really decided the game. I think the Colts were going to win either way. It looked like, you never know, but first drive and they go down there and score. The crowd was crazy. That's why I like the home teams. And really, it took third down for them to get that first down, which actually was a questionable spot. But he got the first down, and they went down there and drove down there and scored. The tackling on the Texans part, I mentioned this going into the playoffs. I mentioned this a couple last weeks of the season, mainly against the Eagles. They were kind of exposed. The tackling, mainly in the secondary, pretty brutal, and it showed in this game. And even though they only gave up 21 points, it felt like more than that. And that's one thing about the Colts that maybe I didn't like that much is they only got the 21 points, I thought. And it kind of goes with what Jim Irsay said in the locker room after the game, which people are kind of bashing him on Twitter and social media. I think he kind of just worded it wrong, but I understand what I think he was getting at was he's basically saying, I know we're capable of keep going, never giving up. I know you're capable of more and scoring more points. I get his point because you could have put this game away a lot easier. The Texans actually still had a chance. It was a good stop on fourth down in the red zone by the Colts, which was twice actually, which was very impressive. The Colts defense, one of the more impressive things. And you talk about their O-line. Yeah, their O-line went from last to first, very impressive. But I mean, you had a top pick in the draft, and you got one of the best guards I've ever seen pre-draft. So it's not too much of a shocker. It's pretty surprising for a team to go last to first, but I think this defense is the more impressive thing of the Colts. They've been going against some good teams that can score some points, and they really don't have the names on their defense. It's kind of funny because you don't expect this defense to be that good, and they've been outstanding. They held the Cowboys 0 points a couple weeks ago, and then they do this in the playoffs. So great game for the Colts. The offense started off early, but the defense was really the key, just holding the Texans to 7 points, which is crazy. I predicted the Texans to get 28 points, not even close there, and they're away on top of it. So very impressive from the Colts. T.Y. Hilton was clutch on third downs. Andrew Luck was very good. The Texans, like I said, defense was not good early. They played well in the second half, but at that point where the Colts kind of going conservative, I wish they would just get more points on the board when they have the ability to, but Texans defense was not good. Only player I was impressed with was Clowney, and he did have his moments where, saw it all over Twitter. Quentin Nelson put him in the ground, but there was moments where Clowney was excellent. Really the only guy out there. Seen him drop back in coverage. Seen him get after the quarterback. Really the only guy that can make a tackle by himself. And on an early touchdown from the Colts, I actually noticed that it was the outside run there. I actually noticed that Clowney was quadruple team, believe it or not. It was tripled right away because he was off the edge on the left side, and then Quentin Nelson pulled over and was kind of on the other three linemen's back helping the block, and the only guy they were really blocking was Clowney. Other guys got to step up and make a play there. So, the Texans won a lot of games this year. They went streaking through the middle of the season, won 9 games, I believe. They got some talent. They got young talent, but I think they do need a lot more. They need more defense talent. They obviously need an offensive line. Watson was getting pressured a lot the whole year. This game seemed worse. And during the year, I actually kind of blamed a lot of the sacks on Watson. I think he held on the ball too long or ran into sacks, stepped up in the sacks. Obviously, the offensive line wasn't good, didn't help him. But in this game, I don't put too much on Watson here at all, besides the throws that he should have made. The third and fourth down throws that just seemed to hit the dirt a lot. So, that was kind of surprising. I know this was his first run at the playoffs, so I guess it shouldn't be too surprising, but the inaccuracy was a little surprising, but not much he can do when he was under pressure a lot there. So offensive line's got to get better, but they overall had a good season. But really at times in this playoff game, I just caught myself saying, I can't believe this was a playoff. This was a 3 seed, is what I was saying. It was kind of surprising, but I guess the Colts are that good where they can make you look that way. They got a true test against the Chiefs, a true test for their defense because their defense has been playing outstanding and been surprising and impressive at the same time. Can they do it against the best offense in football in Kansas City? That's going to be a fun one to watch. Like I mentioned in my playoff team rankings video that I did last week, a positive I had about the Colts was they can match up against anybody. You know, each team has, well, this is a really good matchup for them. This team's a really bad matchup for them. Colts don't really have, you know, it's not a great matchup against anybody, but they don't have a bad matchup against anybody. It's just that type of team. So, great game from the Colts. They dominated this game. Just wish they could have kept putting points up on the board. They're going to need to put games away because other teams may actually be able to come back. But great game for the Colts. You know, young team we did not expect to be here. Let's see what they can do here going forward. But yeah, that defense impressed me. Marlon Mack, forgot to mention Marlon Mack too. I mentioned T.Y. Hill. Marlon Mack had 150 yards just under, and he was fantastic. You know, the Texans just couldn't tackle him. So he's really coming along. Very impressive. Can't wait to watch that Colts-Chiefs game. But on to the next game. It was the Seahawks and the Cowboys. The one game I got right this week, and probably the one I was least confident about. So it just sums up this year. Cowboys only win this game by 2. It felt like they had control the whole time. You know, it felt like it didn't need to be this close. It feels like, I don't want to say dominated this game because the Seahawks did play well. Russell Wilson, Doug Baldwin played pretty well, but pretty close to dominate this game. You know, they had a chance to put it away at one point. And KJ Wright had that clutch interception. But, yeah, I felt like the Cowboys had control of most of this game. They just seemed like, I mean, they were home, so that gives you the advantage. But it seems like they were just plain simple the better team here, which was impressive on the Cowboys' part. Yeah, I think the Seahawks could have let – and there's some people saying that, you know, they had the best run team, but they weren't able to run the ball as much as maybe they would like. But yeah, Penny had 4 carries, Carson had 13, Russell Wilson ran 3 times, Davis 4. So I understand that. You know, the number one run offense, I should say. Yeah, you would like them to run the ball a little more. They were down this game pretty much the whole time. But also at the same time, Russell Wilson was having a pretty good day throwing. He was pretty clutch. He was 18 for 27, 233 yards. So, I mean, he could have way more attempts than that, and you could win the game. So I can see either argument, you know. Kind of want a little bit of both. And really, which was surprising, I think Pete Carroll, which is a great coach, that's coaching staff deserves a lot of credit. I think they got outcoached in this game, which is surprising. You know, most people were picking the Seahawks for that reason. They thought the Seahawks would outcoach them. But it almost looked like they got outcoached a little bit here. Tyler Lockett played a good game for the Seahawks. Yeah, I thought Russell Wilson was clutch. That 4th down throw to Doug Baldwin was just beautiful throw, beautiful placement, and great, good, solid catch, and just great execution on the foot. Keep the feet in bounce, the foot drag there. Not a lot of receivers can do that consistently. Doug Baldwin can. So that was impressive. The ability to stick in the game when it felt like they really weren't in the game, but the ability to stick in the game, you know, that kind of just Russell Wilson there. So that was impressive, but the Cowboys, man, deserve a lot of credit. Dak was great. The interception, maybe he shouldn't have thrown it there, but it really wasn't all on him. There was a lot of luck involved in that. Zeke, I predicted to have a big game. He did have a big game, 137 yards rushing, a touchdown. There was a run late in the game where he stiff-armed Griffin, and that was a key run, big run, very impressive run from Ezekiel Elliott. Cooper was big, had a lot of yards. Some injuries in the receiving unit for the Cowboys early, obviously. Defense stepped up when they needed to. Awuzie, he had a clutch defensive play there towards the end of the game that impressed me. So, and the Seahawks started getting called for, you know, some flags here and there, which I 100% agree with those calls that were being called. You know, I thought they were getting away with some earlier too. But, yeah, a good game from the Cowboys. Yeah, this was the only one I got right, and this was probably the one I was least confident about. But, you know, Cowboys are a hard team to play at home. Let's see what they can do away. You know, it's going to be tough. That Colts game away really sticks in my mind still, so it's going to be tough. I do like the way they match up against the rest of the playoff teams, really. You know, they don't match up great with them, but they can match up pretty well with a lot of these teams. But good game from them. Let's see what they got. You know, it's fun having the Cowboys playing good in football. Next game was the Chargers and the Ravens, a surprising one early because I picked the Ravens and I was confident about the Ravens. Ravens. They were my number 4 team actually in my playoff rankings, but the Chargers were my number 6. So yeah, I was pretty darn high on the Ravens, but at the same time, I was pretty darn high on the Chargers. So not much of an upset there, but my number 4 team is gone already. But it is a shame because that Ravens defense, I love that defense. So fun to watch. The blitzes they do, the depth they have. It's never-ending amount of depth. The next guy after next guy comes in, makes a play. It's just ridiculous, you know. They got a lot of talent in that defense. It's a shame. It's a shame they're out because even when the Chargers were getting points, it was all field goals, and they were starting with great field position. Whether it was a fumble, whether it was a good return by Desmond King, which credit to him, great returner, one of the best in football. And he's a great corner as well. I believe I had him as a late first-round talent, and they get him in the mid to late rounds of the draft. Mind-blowing. So great pick by them, great steal for the Chargers. But, yeah, the Ravens defense did their part. You know, they made the big plays. The turnovers, too, came up. Special teams as well. Really nothing else the defense can do. It was just fantastic. It was elite this year. It's a shame that they're out. Chargers, you know, you would like them to see them score touchdowns on some of those where they had the great field position, but they are playing the best or the second best defense of football from this year. So they should be able to turn those into points against other teams. They got the Patriots coming up. Those should turn into more points, I should say, touchdowns. But, yeah, will the other team, like the Patriots, can they slow them down like they did in this game against this offense? Lamar Jackson took a lot of heat. I was thinking about that all night. We had a crazy game that ended that we'll talk about a little game in a little bit, but that game was crazy too. But this game, this is what stuck in my head from this game, was this the Ravens fans booing Lamar Jackson and booing them. That's your future quarterback, and you pretty much trash talk Joe Flacco all the way through. That kind of stuck with me. You know, I lost a lot of respect there and it really wasn't on Lamar Jackson. The game plan was not good. The play calling was not good. Just read option after read option. I talked about this on Twitter a lot. And they didn't. Yeah, Lamar made some throws he would like to have back. He made some bad throws. They could be much, much worse. I've seen much worse. But then that's it. Then they're done. Were they just insisting on the read option? Yeah, I would like Lamar Jackson to run too, but the read option is quarterbacks getting the ball or the running backs getting the ball, and the Chargers have the players to match up on both. It's one guy's job to get the quarterback if he has the ball or not. It's another guy's job to get the running back if he has the ball or not. Pretty easy to stop if you're smart, if you have Gus Bradley, if you have the players the Chargers have, and they just played him a couple weeks ago. So I didn't expect them to do that many read options at stupid times too. I mean, there was times where they did it on first, they did it on second, they did it on third down punt. Let the kid throw. Let Lamar Jackson throw. They finally let him throw in the second half. He obviously needs to get warmed up. He needs to get more chances. He's young. And then once he got that, he was balling. You know, that throw across his body on the move, getting pressured by a bunch of guys late in the game, that was a ridiculous throw. Not too many quarterbacks can make that throw. You know, Aaron Rodgers pops in your head. Not too many quarterbacks can make that throw. And this is a guy that's a rookie. He just got thrown in middle of the season. You know, we know he has to develop his throwing a little bit. He's getting booed the whole time by his own fans, his own home crowd, and he's able to do that and be pretty clutch at the end. That was very impressive to me. Very impressive. And the offensive line was good this year. It did not play good in this game. There was times where he's getting sacked and he's getting booed. You think Joe Flacco's getting away from those sacks? It's unreal. He's not. So the offensive line played pretty poor, and Lamar Jackson needs some better weapons. He needs some better wide receiver weapons for sure. Did not like the Hayden Hurst draft pick. Still hate it. I got bashed for hating that one. I just don't like it. He still gets a chance because it's only his rookie year, but I just don't like that pick. Could have done something better with that. So I really lost some respect there for the booing of Lamar Jackson and the team. Yeah, boo the coaching staff. They weren't good in this game. So I guess late in the game they were letting them throw, so they were good. But a lot of credit. I think the MVP of the entire weekend is on the other side of the ball in Melvin Ingram. The guy was an animal. The guy was everywhere, stopping everything. We've seen him line up at. I talked about this before the year. Why I liked him so much is because Gus Bradley and his defense. He plays a unique defense. Leo is what it's called. And one defensive end. It looks like a 4-3. One defensive end, Joey Bosa, is a 4-3 defensive end. His hands in the dirt. Melvin Ingram can he's the Leo position. He's a linebacker and an end. So he plays outside linebacker. It would look like a 3-4 outside linebacker, or he'll line up and put his hand in the dirt. And then this year we've seen him even move inside of the defensive tackle position, or even inside to a more inside linebacker position and make plays there. We've seen him get a sack in this game from the defensive tackle position. The guy was everywhere. He was reading every play. He was reading Lamar Jackson perfectly. It's an elite defensive player. If you don't agree, I don't know what you're doing. He's an elite defensive player, and I kind of said this before the year started, and people kind of didn't really agree. I thought I was too high on him, but it showed in this game. He's been great this year. I think he's the Chargers' really overall best player probably. So great game from him. Derwin James was great. Really, the whole defense was great. The Ravens' defense was fantastic, too. That whole defense, the rotation, everything. It's a shame they got to go home. But great game from the Chargers. Phillip was clutch. He had that they let him run for a first down. Love that celebration for the first down, too. That was funny. But, yeah, I like both these teams. I was kind of rooting for both these teams. It was a tough game. I thought the difference was the Ravens' defense, but plus the Ravens' offense being so hard to game plan against. I thought Lamar Jackson would run all over the place, but credit to Gus Bradley and that defense. That was the key to this game. They got the Patriots coming up. That should be good. I like the way the Chargers match up against them, but in New England, that's kind of tough. So we'll see what happens there. On to the last game. It was Bears and Eagles, a crazy game, 16-15 Eagles. Let's just start from the top. The very first drive, Eagles were moving the ball on them. They were throwing the ball on them. Nick Foles looked great. And there was some great play calls in there. There was an early slip screen, actually. One of the first plays, a little slip screen, and it goes for about 30-plus yards. Fantastic. I'm applauding them at that point because the Bears' defense is elite. It's the best or the second best, probably the best of this year, right there with the Ravens. But there was times this year that they couldn't really cover a screen or a slip screen if it was well blocked. We saw it in the Dolphins game, we saw it in the Patriots game, and the Eagles can block it. They're good at blocking it. So they do that slip screen. I'm applauding them for that call. I was kind of hoping other teams would figure that out and just to compete against the Bears defense, but they couldn't do it. So I was applauding the Eagles at this point, but I don't know if they ran that play ever again. I don't recall. So that was kind of questionable. On that first drive, there was some pointless runs. You're throwing on them, pointless runs. So it was a weird first drive. Applauding them Doug Peterson at one time, and then questionable calls at the other time. They hold them to a field goal. And yeah, then it was pretty much back and forth there, which is great defensive play. I thought the Eagles, honestly, even though it was great defensive play, I thought they could have capitalized. I thought they could have put this game away in the first half. Trubisky was off in the first half. He threw one to Maddox that I think if he caught it cleanly, it would have been a walk-in pick six, and that could have changed the whole game. And he bobbled it. So Trubisky started off a little slow. He was off his game, and I think the Eagles could have capitalized on it, even though their defense did play good. And then they let Trubisky kind of pick it up in the second half. And then at the end of the first half, there was that dropped interception that led to a field goal. Ended up being a field goal. So you got to capitalize on those, especially if you play the Saints and you get those. Yeah, you got to capitalize. And then there was that Anthony Miller catch and fumble whole thing, which at first I thought they ruled it. The weird thing was they moved the ball and they told the Eagles and the Bears to come downfield, so they were switching the call, but then they moved them right back. That was very strange to me. But when the call stood, at first I was like, maybe, 'cause I believe it was LeBlanc. He had a hand underneath the ball when Anthony Miller was catching it, so maybe they couldn't tell if he ever had the firm possession before losing the ball. But then I really thought Anthony Miller had the possession of the ball, in my opinion. But maybe that's what they thought. And then I was like, maybe they knew they blew it by blowing the whistle too early and not allowing the Eagles to cover it. And so they didn't want the game to be decided off that, which is kind of weird. And that's kind of what I was thinking of. But apparently it's coming out now that they got a weird official ruling right. If that situation would ever to happen, which I don't recall it ever happening, then the play would stand. So that technically they got it right. It's a weird rule, but at the same time, should the Bears get rewarded for that? But it's really weird. It's a really weird call. Apparently they got it right. So what was weird to me was the whole they they were changing it. Everybody was convinced they were changing, they were reversing it because they had both teams go down. They were starting to move the ball, and the other ref comes out and struggles to make the announcement. So I thought that was all kind of weird, but I guess they got the right call. And then the second half, really not right away, but I guess more towards the fourth quarter, the Bears' offense really started to pick it up. And the Eagles were able to move the ball here and there too. Back to the first half, Nick Foles threw that interception, which was very surprising to see. Yeah, he did get hit as he threw it, but that ball was getting picked either way. I don't know where he was throwing that, so that was surprising. And I thought Roquan Smith of the Bears was everywhere in the first half. I noticed him everywhere, not just like that interception, that strip, just everywhere. So I thought he was very impressive in the first half. But back to the second half. Not much going in the third quarter. Akeem Hicks was absolutely dominant in the second half. I thought Allen Robinson was absolutely dominant in the second half, mainly in the fourth quarter. Trubisky started to pick it up. And they got some offense going. The Eagles were able to move the ball. When both teams were scoring and getting down there, it looked like easy to them, but then they couldn't keep doing it at times. It was a very weird game. But in credit to both defenses, I guess. But there was times where they were able to move the ball, and Allen Robinson was just having his way with Maddox out there. And so then the Eagles get down to the goal line, and I didn't agree with the first down run, but oh well. And it's the Sproles, too. Doesn't seem to be able to hit the hole. I know there's no hole, but you got to hit something. And then second down, they run again, and I was just surprised by the play calling. The Eagles are supposed to be unique. Where's the RPO? They barely ran that. The slip screen worked. They didn't really go back to that. They're running the ball. They were up in this game, and they got conservative, and they went down right away. They bit them right in the rear end, and the Bears went and scored. So I didn't agree with a lot of this. I didn't really. Same thing on the other side with Nagy too. They kind of got predictable. They would run the ball on second down a lot just to make it a shorter third down to make it a little easier. It makes sense. But the Eagles started picking up on that, which other teams I thought should have picked up on that during the year. So they started picking up on that, and the 2-point conversion that they failed could have been the difference. Could have ended up being a tie at the end if they got it. I don't like. Bringing Clomac, and they did it during the year and they converted. I understand that, but I didn't like it during the year. They just happened to get it, and teams would fall for it. They got this special guy in, this defensive guy. It was a different guy every time, and they're so worried about him when he's just a distraction. I didn't think they were actually going to do this stuff in the playoffs. There's teams that do that in the regular season, and people expect it in the playoffs, and they don't do it. I didn't think they were going to do it, but the Eagles figured it out. Really, don't worry about Mac. He's not doing anything. And they stopped the play. It actually got pretty close, but they stopped the play. And what rubbed me the wrong, was kind of odd maybe to some, but what rubbed me the wrong way is right after the play, Nagy was like laughing about it. That kind of got me the wrong way. It's the playoffs. This is it. It kind of got me the wrong way. It was almost like, oh well, we tried to do it. I tried to have some fun there. I didn't like that. I didn't like it one bit. So I didn't like the play. Didn't like it. Eagles were smart enough to figure it out. But then back to, I'm kind of bouncing around here in a weird order, but apologize for that. But back to, which was almost a goal line stand for the Chicago Bears. Credit to that defense. Akeem Hicks, once again, was ridiculous. He was the best Bears player this year. Clomac maybe going forward, or when you start a season, he's maybe the best defensive player in all of football. But Akeem Hicks was unbelievable, not just in this game, but yeah. And so it took fourth down to finally throw it to Golden Tate. They're trying the same play to Alshon Jeffrey before that. That's not the guy you do that to. Alshon Jeffrey, you should have been throwing the ball up to a lot of this game. And, when you did, he made some big plays. But doing the wrong plays, the wrong players, you finally got Golden Tate in on this, and he gets it on fourth down. So that was pretty clutch. The Eagles are just, were they 100% on, were they 4 for 4 on fourth downs, which is, it's bad that they let it get the fourth down, as we can see there, but I guess they're pretty clutch. 2-point conversion was a close one. They reviewed that. I think whatever they called on the field would have stood. I think we needed a camera more straight up and down in the air, like a sky cam. It was really hard. It was really, really close, and they could have been either way. Again, I think whatever they called on the field was going to stand, so that was crucial. And then pretty much know the rest there. The kick return by Cohen. Great kick return. The Eagles kicked it short. I don't think that was on purpose, but how does it happen that short? But great kick return. Set them up. Trubisky makes some good throws. I got to credit Trubisky on his pump fakes. He was really selling those. You do got to give more credit to Allen Robinson. His routes were fantastic to pair with the pump fakes. Perfect time, in sync. I like that a lot. Allen Robinson showed what he can be. You know, that's Allen Robinson. He's a very good wide receiver. But my problem, Maddox was getting beat. I don't know why they had. Maddox is real short too. He's a playmaker. He's a rookie. He almost had a pick six. He can jump plays. That's what he's best at, jumping plays and underneath stuff. He's a smaller corner, so that's what he's best at. And then he was kind of getting beat deep. But in this last drive when he got beat, people were bashing him again. They might have been in cover two is what it looked like. He looked like he stayed in the flat for a little bit, and the safety got late to get over there. I don't know. I thought they were going to be in a prevent, and I thought that was going to be a mistake because most teams go in a prevent in that situation or some sort of prevent in that situation, but they go complete opposite. Cover two can allow easy catches down the sideline more than 10 yards. And that's what it looked like to me. That's what it looked like because Maddox stayed in the flat unless he really read it wrong. That would have been really bad if he was man on Robinson there. That would have been really bad. So they allow some more yards. And then the unfortunate missed field goal, obviously, which is now ruled to be a tip. End up being our deflection is what the NFL is ruling. So if you do look close, you can see that it was slightly deflected, maybe by a fingernail, like literally that close. But if you look at the rotation of the ball, it had crazy spin, crazy rotation. And then as soon as it gets what we think was tipped, it still has rotation, but not as fast. So I definitely think it did something. If that's not tipped, does that go in? It might. And he hits both crossbars, which is very unfortunate. And you got to give credit to the timeout to Doug Peterson there. They had another timeout to use. Use it at the right time because he was making that field goal. So use it at a perfect time. Then good block on that, which was I don't know if we can tell 100%, but that's what happened there. Really, I guess the first half the Bears could have done better on offense. The Eagles, when they seemed like they got better, they got into the Bears' territory. They could have executed better. But the Bears, they couldn't get really anything going on offense in the first half. Usually they come out and score right away. That's kind of was the Bears' offense, and when they win games, and they couldn't do it. In the second half, they were able to throw. I predicted them to win because I thought they would be able to throw downfield against the weak and thin because of injury Eagles secondary, and they did it in the second half. They were, the secondary was getting exposed. Guys were wide open, and so that's a tough task to go against Drew Brees next week for the Eagles, but it's a tough one for the Bears because it was a good season. And that was probably the worst matchup for the Bears, too. The Eagles is a tough matchup, but they are at home, so you expect them to win that game. But it's a tough one there. But I think that's going to do it here for the week recap. We'll be back recapping next week. We got prediction videos. I'm going to rank the playoff teams again every single week, so we'll do that video. But yeah, straight up picks, score predictions, all kinds of fun stuff here. We got Friday night live streams, so can't wait for the college championship tonight. Clemson-Bama should be fun. Again, on our Twitter, frogs_angels. I'll predict the score on that. We'll talk live during the game. I'm a big draft fan. We got a lot of draft coverage here, so I'll be looking at that top talent. But yeah, stay tuned for the other videos this week for the playoffs. Subscriber goals 10K. We're getting very, very close. Thanks to everyone's support. So help us get there. If you haven't clicked that subscribe button, clicking the like button, we much appreciate it as well. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.